Well, here we go again. It is snowing once again. It is the 25th of February, and I just wanted to follow up on that last video that I made about all the service requests, the 311 calls, the snow, all this stuff. So all of the cycling facilities for this whole ward, Ward 5, are in the southern end of it. We got one on Scarlet, going to the Humber River. We got one on Eglinton, which continues from the Eglinton multi-use trail that goes all the way over to this area, which is super cool. And that part of it has been faithfully cleared through this whole period. This whole period is the duration is since the big mid-January snow drop where we got a record amount of snow. We got more snow during that drop apparently than we've ever gotten all at once. So anyway, there's that part of the Eglinton path, and then another part goes from where it meets Scarlet here all the way up to Fergie Brown Park, where it connects with it goes up to Piran Park here, where it connects with Glen Valley Drive. And this one part of it from Jane is brand new. So it goes along the south side of Eglinton. It goes across the bridge here in this part that's separated with these concrete highway dividers. No, and this is exactly what it's looked like this whole time. And then over at Jane, it switches to the north side of Eglinton, where there's this new facility. It's not really shown on this street view because the street view is a bit old, but it goes up here all the way to Piran Park. So there's that segment of it. And then the segment between Scarlet and Jane goes along the south side here, and that is shown here because that's been there for a while. So there's a walking space and a cycling space. So long story short, and then I'll do short story long. Long story short, the segment between the bridge here and Jane has been cleared really well through this whole time. The segment west of Scarlet has been cleared really well this whole time, after each snow event and all that stuff. But the segment that goes from Jane up to here, and the segment that goes across the bridge, have both been completely buried in snow since mid-January. So this segment here, even though it's been cleared, you can't bike to it unless you want to do, Eglinton, which is 70-kilometer-an-hour road. So, okay, so in the previous video, I toured all of these facilities except for Runnymede, and for this portion of Runnymede between Dundas and St. Clair, I had already made a maintenance request for the cycle tracks here because they were full of big piles of snow, and then also ice, frozen slush and slushy ice in the cycle tracks going under the bridge here. And so I didn't check that part out. I checked out Scarlet, I checked out Eglinton, and the bridge across Eglinton was all full of snow. The facility going from Jane to Piran Park was all full of snow. The Scarlet Road bike lanes, the cycle tracks, they had, I think they'd finally cleared away the big piles of snow that were obstructing them, but the cycle tracks themselves still had all these icy and slushy and frozen slush bits. And at that point, they had had so many opportunities to just get rid of the slush when it was still slush, when it sort of thawed back into slush form before it became ice. But then it turned into ice again, so they lost their opportunity. So I made service requests for Scarlet, two of them, one for the Oh, I think there was still big piles of snow there. I made one request for the big piles of snow, and the other request, this is based on what the 311 operator, how they wanted to do it. One request for the piles of snow, and then the other one for the snow that was just all over the cycle tracks. And then I made another request for the snow that had buried the bridge crossing here for a month, and another request for this facility here. And the 311 guy said, you know, he clued me into this part of the process where if a service request gets finished, but it doesn't get finished properly enough, you can follow up by submitting a complaint/dispute, and like you can email them with pictures and whatever, and that's more useful than making an additional service request. So in the interim, that's what I've ended up doing for like this segment, because when I went there the other day, it had been marked as finished, but nothing was actually done to it. And this segment where the snow had been cleared, but there was a bunch of places where they left a whole bunch of like ice and snow. Except that job was still outstanding. So it was still like on the board as being like it's supposed to be done by the 23rd, and I checked it out on the 23rd, so I figured, well, maybe they fixed it. So here's one of the two requests I made for Scarlet. It says it was supposed to be done on the afternoon of the 23rd, but it still hasn't been done. This is the 25th. And this is the other one, and it's the same thing except it was supposed to be done on the 22nd, and apparently hasn't been done. But I did check this out, and they got rid of all the piles of snow, but they left all these, like, somewhere between 30 and 40 different places in the whole facility where there's these big frozen slush and ice bits. So that's pretty insane. The Eglinton Bridge one, where the cycling spot goes across Eglinton, it was marked completed, but nothing was actually done to it. So for this one, I phoned in a complaint/dispute, and I don't know how that's going. I guess I'll call them back up again because there's no way to track the complaint reference numbers. And then for the new segment that goes from Jane to Piran Park, it's the same as these other ones where it says it's still hasn't been done, and now it's 2 days overdue. With all of these, I was hoping, okay, hopefully they take care of this stuff before it snows on Thursday morning, because otherwise we will once again end up with ice hidden under snow in every single one of our cycling facilities. And they keep doing this. And it's bugging the hell out of me because it just makes it so much harder. So each time they leave a bunch of ice and slush, it snows again, then they clear away some of the snow and leave a whole bunch more ice and slush. And it sucks. So on the 22nd, I'm using my GoPro with a bunch of water droplets on it obscuring a view. And these lanes are good. They removed like part of each of these cycle tracks under the bridge. They had 2 segments where it was totally blocked with frozen slush. Before the slush completely froze, I made a service request about it. And with each one, they removed one of them and left another one. So here I am going to the grocery store, avoiding the cycle track. It sucks, but at least there's no massive piles of snow leading to and from it. Actually, this wasn't a grocery trip. This was a grocery trip after a commute to work and back. So here I am going home at the end of the day. Finally, the side streets, the alleys through the junction, the ice has finally melted, so I don't have to take Dundas again, which is nice. So once again, this is on the 22nd, and finally the cycle tracks, for part of them, they're fine, but then there's still some icy bits, and there's still this big snowy bit. Oh no, maybe they removed the snowy bit. Yeah, finally I was able to use the cycle tracks. So this is one of the, like, I think one of the half a handful of times where I've actually been able to use these cycle tracks without, like, stopping and walking my bike through some icy part of it over the past, like, month, or like month and a week. So obviously, like, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff right, but not everything. It's a mixed bag. This is where I was cycling home at one point, and I was walking my bike across this hydro field. It was the first time in a while I was thinking, like, man, you know, like, maybe there's one day every once in a while where I'd rather be driving. And then I see this driver that was stuck here. They couldn't get up the hill. And but this is one of those hills where I end up having to pull over for these drivers that either want to pass me too close or want to pass me into potential oncoming traffic. It's just, it makes no sense. So then this is the morning of the 23rd. This is, like, they fulfilled one of the two service requests that I ended up making about this spot. They got rid of most of the snow and the big piles of snow, but they left all these places where it's still real sketchy. Just stuff like this, which I'm like, as soon as it snows again, this is going to be this hidden, sketchy trap, whereas right now, this is how easy it is to just get rid of it. So they could, like, somebody could literally come along with a push broom and spend half an hour fixing the whole facility of all this stuff. But they're not really being opportunistic and doing this when it's relatively easy. They keep waiting till it's going to be super hard or impossible, and then not really doing it. And obviously not all of it is totally easy, but, you know, I should have brought my pickaxe, but whatever. So I ended up clearing a path through most of it, which now is hidden under snow, so nobody's going to be able to tell what part of it is usable. So that's going to kind of suck, but it's annoying because most of it is great. Or was great. At least going northbound. And southbound, it's completely messed up. There's stuff like this, which is not so bad until it gets snowed over and you can't tell which parts are usable. But then, like, obviously, they are capable of doing an amazing job because they did an amazing job for a whole bunch of it, so. This is the part where it was marked as completed. Like, this is where the cycling space is. That's not completed. That's they didn't do anything. So I guess this is what they expect cyclists to do. Maybe it's suddenly legal to be doing this because the snow clearing has been completed. Well, okay, this is the part where the cycling space has been totally usable, really well maintained, and you can't get to it safely and legally. I mean, except for a couple spots like that, which they're not really a big deal. This is at Jane in Eglinton, and there was a bunch of snow piled up there. They removed that snow. That's awesome. They left this wire hanging here, which has been there for months. Made a 311 request on that in like the fall, and they haven't done anything. So I called in a dispute on that, and they said, oh no, we never received a 311 request for that, so you can't do a complaint dispute for that. We'll just do a new request. And don't worry, it'll be done in 4 hours because this is a hazard. I'm like, huh, cool, so that's high priority. Because it's a hazard. This other stuff is all getting 2 or 3 days. And now it's been 5 days and they haven't finished it. And then this is what I ended up finding in this space. Like, this was buried. And they obviously removed most of the snow really well, but then they left all these spots like this, which, like, boy, it's a good thing it wasn't it's a good thing it's not all hidden in a new bit of snow right now, which it is, because when it's visible like this, you can just, you know, avoid it, walk around it. I mean, for the most part, there's parts where you can't really. This big patch here, it's no real way to deal with it, and the sidewalk is all messed up too. So I don't know. This spot is still marked as not done, like they half finished it and then didn't finish it, and then waited till it got snowed on again. So it's annoying because all this money is being spent. You know, these facilities are expensive. Everything's expensive in life. I mean, these facilities are expensive. The snow clearing that they did do is expensive, but because they didn't do it well enough, it's still not really usable. So, like, a lot of money spent, a lot of boxes ticked, and you still end up with, like, this kind of thing. Like, it's... So, my theory is, like, I've been doing exactly what I'm supposed to do as a community member. I've been calling 311 each time with the appropriate service requests. I've been following up on checking out how those requests have been filled, been making the appropriate complaints when they haven't been completed properly. The 311 people have been doing exactly what they're supposed to do in taking those requests, coordinating things, letting the winter maintenance contractors know what needs to be done. And then the winter maintenance contractors have not been doing what they're supposed to do, because they show up, they do something, they leave it in an obviously unusable state. They're not taking advantage of all the opportunities that they have to do the work when it's really easy to do. And then when it's harder to do, they're waiting until it gets covered by another snow dump.
It's got problems with the outcome, and so I wanted to register or report I've been told it's called a complaint or a dispute.
Okay, what is the reference number on the sidewalk clear and passable?
Oh, they said, yeah, the sidewalk was always fine. The request wasn't about the sidewalk, it was about the multi-use path, the cycling space next to the sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the road.
Well, for this request that you gave, 602855, this is for sidewalk snow clearance.
Oh, but I was so specific. So I guess that's one went wrong. That's so weird though. Like we got really the 311 person and I got so specific about what part of the road it was. I do have a photo, and he was saying, like, if I call in a dispute/complaint, I should take photos and somehow provide them, but
So it's weird. At first, when I submitted a complaint about this this bit where it goes across the river, and they just didn't do it. At first, she said, "Oh, it was for sidewalk clearance," and they showed up and saw that the sidewalk was clear and left. So I'm saying it wasn't for the sidewalk. But then the story changes, and the operator is like, "Oh, it's for the bike lane."
Okay, so this was for the bike lane?
yeah, you could call it a bike lane. It's not really a bike lane. It is the cycling space, but there's a few different types of cycling facilities, and this is not what is called a bike lane, but I don't know how to answer that. It is the space that cyclists are supposed to use.
Okay, so they did put it through as the bike lane for winter maintenance, and when they went out, their assessment was the area, they said the sidewalk and the area was passable, clear and passable. So if you're saying that, sorry, it's still not cleared?
Yeah, no, nothing was done. The cycling space is still full of snow.
Okay.
Like, it's passable if you're willing to break the law and ride your bike on the sidewalk, but the sidewalk's too narrow to do that anyway. I don't know. I don't understand it's really obvious when you go there. There's a sidewalk, there's a path next to the sidewalk, which is like 1 lane wide. It's demarcated with Jersey barriers. It's full of snow. And then the road is next to that. So I don't know how this could possibly be confusing to anyone.
Okay. Let me go ahead and put forth the complaint.
So then I did my follow-up request for the other spot from Jane up the hill, Superior
cycling
Park.
path, like from the east side of the bridge to Jane, is clear. That was always they took care of that after the recent snow dump just fine. It's just the space where you go across the bridge. It's weird. Like they cleared the cycling space and the pedestrian space between the east side of this bridge and Jane, but there's no way to actually get to that cycling space from either end, because both the east, the other place on the east side where you'd access it from, it got half done, so they might be finishing it off today. But
oh no, that's right. I didn't do another request for it because the request was already outstanding. So yeah, and it still is, and now it's covered in more snow.
a long time ago, like months ago.
Oh yeah, and this is where I did the thing for the hanging wire.
These related, so it might be the
Anyway. So basically, I don't know. What I see is, like, I don't think that transportation services, when they made their winter maintenance contract, like when they made the specifications, I don't think that they actually did it properly. So I don't think the contractors, when they agreed to the contract, I don't think that they agreed to a set of like methodologies and whatever that would actually result in usable stuff. I think they missed out on two things, one of which is clearing away leaf litter and debris in the fall and then also throughout the winter. And then the other one is dealing with slush before it turns to ice, and also dealing with the slush that is like blocking the meltwater from getting into the storm drains. So you end up with ponding that turns into sheets of ice because the melted water can't actually melt into the storm drains. And then this, I don't know, this facility on Runnymede. So I think those are the two snow clearing problems. But this is my problem with having a facility that is two narrow one-way lanes, whether you're behind a slow cyclist or you're behind somebody who, for whatever reason, doesn't want to use the sidewalk for their like mobility device. You can't pass them. And that facility did poach 2 full driving lanes to make these narrow spaces, and we could have just done like 1 driving lane and made a wide space where cyclists could pass each other. And it could have just been a multi-use path that anybody could use without getting in each other's way. So I made this other video where I've got this idea for like a hybrid suburban cycling network where you just do cycle tracks in all these places that are like this and then use the side streets to get between these places. And this is why in that proposal, I recommend just doing 1 lane that becomes a 2-way facility instead of doing this. So you're using half as much space to get twice as much done. And that's my little extra content for this video. So yeah, so I'm not making these videos to try to like catch the 311 people screwing up or catch the city screwing up or whatever. I'm trying to figure out what's going wrong, what's going right. I'm trying to encourage people to use the services that are available and do a bit of their own, work on these places where it's easier to do that than it is to call it in. I'm trying to promote the whole process of doing like a complaint/dispute call on something that's been done but done wrong, instead of just submitting new requests and whatever. And I'm trying to figure out what's happening with the snow clearing efforts and what I can recommend in terms of changes. So I think at this point I do have an idea of what my recommendations would be for transportation services to change their snow clearing and winter maintenance contract with the contractors. I think that's the solution. But basically, the long story short of it is, for the past month and a week, all of our cycling facilities have been unusable most of the time. A whole bunch of the times they've been dangerous, but they look like they're safe, which is very sketchy. And yeah, that's my takeaway. So happy cycling, everyone.